if I mess up, like, can you cut stuff? Bro, I don't have to try to look good. Shout out to my barber.
Who's your barber?
Secret.
If my barber heard me, she'd be pissed. But she knew I was trying to look for another.
She.
It's a she.
Mine's a she too.
She's Brazilian.
Oh, mine's American.
I got to get canceled out of the show. All right, guys, here we are. Athletek Podcast. Welcome to the Baseball Development Show. We got left-handed pitcher Brendan Parks in the house.
Yes,
How you doing, Parksy?
I'm good. Happy to be here.
You doing, little sucker?
Here we go.
Yeah. What's new, dude? Fill me in.
Just finished up my first month at West Georgia. It's been good so far. Definitely a change just in like the philosophy as a coaching staff and a new team, of course. I think it's always tough to walk in and be a new guy, but it's been great so far. I've loved every single part of it. I mean, from the weight room, from the field, you know, from hanging out as a team. You know, I've been getting into golf a little bit when I've got some free time, which I've never had before.
The true PO life.
Yeah, really, I know. And I don't know, I think just overall it's been a great experience so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes in the next couple months through fall ball as we pick up inter squad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So Parks is one of our longest training clients. I mean, when did we start training together? How long ago was that?
I was probably 15.
How old are you now?
21.
21.
So 6 years.
So are you in your third year officially, or is this
I'm in my fourth year?
Fourth year.
But I have a fifth year.
Parks is one of them. He's one of them young guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So started training when I was 15. Had never trained before. If we go look back at video, there's true evidence of that.
We've got some video. We're going to put some video in this so you guys will be able to see.
But I was, just a kid who wanted to get better and didn't know how to get better. And, I stumbled across Dave through Vic's team at ninth inning when we were 15. And from then on, he took me in under his wing, even though I was probably not the best kid or the best player at the time. But I can't thank you enough because you've definitely helped get me to where I'm at today. And I've had some unbelievable experiences as a baseball player. So
yeah. Well,
good thing I joined the Athletek group.
Yeah, I mean, dude, we're glad. I mean, you've been with us a long time, and you've come a long way, and it's a roller coaster ride. This whole thing's a roller coaster ride. Like
absolutely.
You go through ups and downs, and
absolutely.
You go through like different identities through this whole thing, right?
True.
So
100%.
Like all right, so describe yourself then, right? You're saying you were a little 14, 15-year-old runt. Like, one word to describe yourself back then, what would it be?
Immature. Like, I loved baseball, but didn't know, like, how to, like, and I had dreams and goals, and I wanted to play in college and, play professional, but I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Like, it was all just in my head. And, like, I wasn't the best player. Like, I mean, even talking at Kennesaw last year to a Jay Quinnichet who was on our team, he was like, you were one of the worst players on the team. Yeah. And, like, hearing that when I was 15 would have killed me, but now it's like I was. And, like, I had to work harder. And I had coaches that believed in me and kept me in it, even though there were times where I wanted to quit. But immature was 100% a word I would describe myself. I was a clown. I'd get on the mound and crap down my leg half the time. Like, I just, didn't know what I was doing. And
you were the guy. Parks was the guy who, like, he could be 100% joking around, messing around, clowning around, and then 4 seconds later when he failed, he'd be pissed off at the world, like totally ready to freaking lose it. Like, am I not wrong about that?
No, it is. Like, I was a clown, and then all of a sudden I'm like, time to play.
But that means you cared, right?
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
Because I knew you were immature back then.
Yeah.
We talked about it.
Yeah.
But I knew you cared.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I knew this whole time you're saying, "Oh, thanks for taking a chance on me," but I think everybody knew it. You remember that one practice? It was me, Vic, and Shane.
Yeah.
We pulled you aside. We were at Chamblee.
Yeah.
Pulled you aside, and we're like,
remember it.
dude, if there's anybody here that's going to be a pro baseball player, it's probably going to be you.
Yeah. No, I 100% remember that. And, like, Shane, I mean, Vic would do it and I mean, you're 15, like,
Mm-hmm.
and you're the worst player. Like, you're living in the moment at that time. Like, you're not sitting there like, what the heck are these guys talking about? Like, I'm not good right now. Like, cool, I'm left-handed and I'm like a good-sized kid, but like I can't throw a strike to save my life. Like, I have no off speed, and I throw 80 miles an hour. Like, big deal. But like, as a 15-year-old, you don't. That's all you see, and like having coaches to like be able to say, well, you long toss 300 feet, but you're 15. Like, you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna throw 90 miles an hour one day. You just have to like figure it out.
Yeah.
And like, you think at 15 you like have no time.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, well, I'm 15. I'm a sophomore. Like, in 2 years I'm a senior, and I gotta find somewhere to go. But you have so much time.
Yeah.
And as I've learned over this process, like, things can happen like this.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I was 82 going into my senior year and walked out at 92. Like, no, I didn't sit 92, but I touched it. And like, from then on, I've like just approached the game like, just keep working, stick to the process, and like, in a matter of months, like, the game can change, and you
Yeah.
can become a whole different player. And I mean, it's hard to see because you're so worried about yourself and results, but
Well, like so you just brought up the velo thing.
yeah.
Okay, and that's been a thing for you
Oh yeah.
since day one. The
Oh
first day
yeah.
I met you,
I want to throw
I had to
hard.
pull you over. I was throwing batting practice in the cage. I had to pull you over because I didn't know any of the kids' names on the team.
Yeah.
And I pulled you over there, and I'm like, dude, tell me every kid's name so I can like throw to him, watch him swing, and figure out his name.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting there telling me, and you're like, I just need to throw hard. I remember you telling this stuff.
Yeah.
You're like, I need to throw harder. I'm only 78 right now. All this stuff. So I think like the first thing was you were either 14 or 15. It was during that year, and you hit 80. I remember you're like, I've hit 80. I'm like, what do you think I can hit 85? Like, so from day one, it was velo. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so like we're gonna fast forward. Like, you had your checkpoints. You got better every
Yeah.
year. You threw a little bit harder. I remember the first time you hit 90 when you were in high school. You're like,
Yeah.
this is big. We're talking to schools during that
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Fast forward to now, you've gone through a lot, and we're gonna back up to all this stuff. We're gonna talk about everything, but you are where you're at now. You've gone
Mm-hmm.
through everything you've gone through now.
Mm-hmm.
What's one word to describe yourself now?
I mean, I'd love to say confident, but like that, I mean, that changes all the time. So I wouldn't go like, you have great days, you have bad days. Like, you can't always be that. But I mean, I like the word free. Like, I was such like a mental, just like always worried about what the next thing was, always worried about what's going to happen this day on the mound, what my result's going to be. Like, I've changed like so much mentally on how I approach the game, and even like starting this summer, like, I didn't have a great year at Kennesaw State, and there was a lot of ups and downs and a lot of struggles just personally that like I dealt with, and it resulted in me having to make a school change, and I took the summer, and I'm like, you know what, like, I don't know how much time I have left. I'm gonna go into my fourth year, and I have a fifth if I want to use it, and then if pro ball's there, heck yeah. If not, like, we move on. But I'm not gonna sit here and waste time overthinking everything, and worried about what's gonna happen in this outing and why this happened. Like, I'm just gonna get on the mound, and I'm just gonna go and be free and make adjustments when it's needed, and just compete. And from like then on, I think my first summer outing, I took that approach, and again, like, I know what's gonna happen. I've never had that mindset getting on a mound, and
Right.
I haven't skipped a beat since, and I'm gonna stick with it because why not?
Free is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
free, if you pick a word to describe you and it's free,
Yeah.
that's good, man. I mean, that's
Yeah.
about as good as you can make it. So
It's
you just, all right. So you kind of gave everybody watching and listening kind of some insight on, like, I was at Kennesaw State. Things didn't work out. I changed schools, but let's back up a little bit, right? So, like, I was with you during the travel ball times.
Mm-hmm.
Because of your birthday, you typically played back a year.
Right.
Or no, you played up a year. You were younger than everybody else on your teams.
No.
Right? Or
I was in the grade above most of the guys on my team.
You were in the grade above. So
But
you
I
were
was
a grade
their
ahead,
age.
but you were playing down. Okay,
Right.
so how did that feed into the immaturity piece, say from like 14 to 17 in those developmental years? Like, did that feed into it? Do you think that made it worse or made it better? Like, what did that do to you? And then, like, what happened towards the end of high school as you had to make a jump
Yeah.
in travel ball?
I think if I were to do it again, I would have played my class.
Yeah.
Just from the standpoint of like, I'm in a whole different boat from a recruiting standpoint as these guys. Like, these guys are 15 and I'm 15, but I'm a sophomore and they're freshmen.
Yeah.
So like, no one's coming to watch.
Right.
But like, I need people to come watch.
Yeah.
And like, even at 16, I did the same thing. I played 16U while my kids and the kids in my class were playing 17, which is arguably the biggest year of travel baseball. And like these guys are playing in these, PBR, whatever, the PG National and all that, and getting recruited, and they're my grade, but I'm not their age, and I'm playing in, random stuff that no one's really coming to watch.
Yeah.
And I think for me that put a lot of pressure on myself to like try and get people to come, like it kind of set me into like somewhat of like an anxiety, like,
Yeah.
mindset of like, God, like I'm not getting recruited because no one's here because I'm playing with 16-year-olds and not the kids that are in my class.
Right.
And I think that did contribute. I don't think it contributed to my immaturity as much as it did like more just like the fact of like putting so much pressure on myself to where I couldn't perform at the highest level I wanted to. And I wasn't able to just trust again the process and be free.
Right.
So I think, I don't know if it played as much into immaturity.
Did it affect you when you had to make the jump? Like when you had to
No.
jump one to get with your class?
No.
You didn't notice the difference?
You
were good enough.
I was plenty good enough. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
And like, at that point when I did step up, I was starting to creep into the upper 80s and starting to, get in touch, 90 or 89. And like at that point from the left side, that plays.
Did you know that? Like, so
Yeah.
for a lefty, I mean, you could be 85 and above as a lefty, right? And you can get looks. But for you, was it always like, no, I need more velo, no, I need more velo? Like, what was it like? I mean, you're getting into your junior year.
Mm-hmm.
You were sitting mid 80s, touching upper 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you feel like you were there in terms of velo, or did you feel like you needed more? There were guys at your school. You went to North Atlanta.
Yeah.
There were guys that were good.
Oh, yeah.
But guys that were going to be draft guys, and you were around them.
Mm-hmm.
Was it like a competition, like a comparison to them? Like, no, I need to get on these guys' level? Or was it just, no, I'm good, I just need to get better? Like, what was it?
Yeah. I mean, well, from a high school standpoint, like, those guys pushed me harder than, like, I've ever been pushed from just a standpoint of, like, I watched a lot of them grow being the year ahead of me and saw, like, well, these guys can do it, like, I can do it. And so that was more of, like, that pushed confidence into me.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say, like, I thought I didn't have confidence throwing strikes. I didn't think I could throw strikes, which was why I was like, I have to throw harder. Because if I'm left-handed and I'm throwing 89, 90, but don't throw strikes, like, I got a chance. Someone will take a shot. But, like, if I'm 83, 86, and, like, or 82, 85, and I'm just throwing strikes, like, no one's going to take a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know if I could even do that. I didn't know if I could go down to 82, 85 and throw strikes.
Right.
I didn't have that confidence.
So that was that was a piece of you, like, figuring out
your
I had
to learn a lot.
You obviously had potential. You obviously had stuff, but it's like, who am I? What am I? And you had to figure that out. Mm-hmm. So I'd say, if I remember right, tell me if I'm wrong, but your junior or senior year is when you kind of started to settle into that.
It was junior year going into senior year. So that summer, I remember throwing in a perfect game showcase, and I was up to 82.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I hit 86. Like, I was like, oh, I was throwing hard today. And I looked, and it was 82. And I remember driving home, like, on the phone with my parents, like, I can't believe it. Like, what the heck? And I think that's when, like, a switch flipped for me.
Right.
Because that was, so we were just going to start summer ball, like, pretty soon. That was right in between high school and summer.
Okay.
Because my team never made the playoffs.
And this was your junior year, so
after my junior,
you weren't getting any looks yet. Nobody was talking
nothing,
to you. Okay.
Nothing. I was like, I think I got in the weight room and was like, let's do it. Like I told you, I was like, I'm running out of time. Like, let's go. And I got in the weight room, saw some results, and then I think like by like maybe, I don't know the date specifically, but like maybe September, October of my senior year in that fall.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there watching a video of Jack Flaherty on my phone, and I was like, God, I love his delivery. Like, I'm just gonna copy that today. And I was 86 to 89. Like, I had hit some 86s, 87s like a couple weeks before that, but like 86, 89 for me was like, oh, like let's go. And then Phil Kerber from PBR tweeted it out, and like my phone, I mean, like hundreds of messages from schools everywhere, and like that was the first time I was like, holy crap, like I can do it. Like
Yeah.
I'm at that point where like, let's play. Like I'm ready to go to college and do this. And then from then on, it was like I'm good enough.
Yeah.
Flipped over into my senior year. We got shut down because of COVID, but I started off hot there. I mean, Pope High School, who's known all over. I mean, even nationally probably. I mean, I threw against them 6 innings, 1 hit, in like my second start.
Yeah.
On varsity in senior year, and I was like, let's do it. Like.
And was that the time? Because I remember when that COVID time.
Yeah.
Came along, and it was like you had some JUCO coaches reaching out.
Yeah.
And it was like, I really don't want to talk to this guy or that guy.
I wanted to go.
Was
D1.
that time? Because I remember some of those guys were reaching out to me because they had seen that we were training together. Was that around that time? I
wanted to go D1. I was obsessed with the fact. I mean, I think a lot of high school kids fall into that trap. And I was at that point. I was hearing from D1s.
Yeah.
I was in contact with Mercer and UAB and schools like that, and I was on the way to a start against Northview, and Mercer was coming to watch me, and I think UAB as well, and we're halfway there, and we get the phone call that we're turning around. And my coach called, but I didn't know. We're on the back of the bus. We're hearing, COVID's a thing, whatever. And my coach, Plante, calls me to the front, and he goes, call Mercer, call UAB, tell them not to come. We're not playing. So, like, I go back to the school. I throw a bullpen thinking, like, I just got to get my work in. Like, we'll be back in a week or 2 weeks, whatever they said. And ended up not working out that way. And I think Plante told me probably 2 weeks later, he said, we're not going to play. Like, it's not going to happen. NCAA is giving eligibility back. Like, you need to commit to Seminole State, like, today.
So, was Seminole State, obviously that's where you ended up going to school, but
JUCO,
were there other JUCOs on the list?
Yeah.
Like, and how much did Plante, like, have in that involvement? Like, was he super involved in that process for you?
Yeah, so he coached at Seminole.
Okay.
And no, I was talking to Walter State. Like, I had some big Wabash. Like, I had some big time JUCOs, and I hadn't really heard of Seminole, but one of my teammates is committed there. And it was in Orlando. I went and visited. I mean, and it's close to the city. Like, there was a lot to do. I didn't really have much interest in going anywhere with nothing to do.
Yeah.
I get there. And I walk on the field, and I'm like, well, before I showed up, I'm like, I'm gonna be the guy. Like I'm a lefty. I throw 90. Like, this is JUCO. Like, I'm better than this. And I still, like, me and Carson still talk about it to this day. That he's like, I couldn't stand you freshman year, like, especially in the fall, because you thought you were like the best thing out there, and I regret, obviously thinking like that, but I learned a lot. Like, I got, buried because there were studs there. Like, we were looking at it yesterday. We had, in the 2 years I was there, we had 27 guys move on, and 17 went and played Division I, which is,
So, all right, so
really
back up for a second. We're going to get to that in a minute. But you said, like, the confidence, that you're talking about the confidence thing.
Yeah.
A lot of times it seems like that gets you in the door. And then you say, well, I regret being like that because then I got buried. But if that gets you in the door, if the confidence thing gets you in the door, is that a bad thing?
No. But when the immaturity takes over and it turns into cocky, it becomes an issue. And that's where I went wrong.
So you got immature.
Yeah.
You've got confident in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
You've got free at the end.
Yeah.
What if you can combine confident and free?
That's where I'm getting to.
instead of immature and confident.
Yeah, no, that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I mean
And I
that's
can
like
like
I'm just
feel the
listening to you talk
difference.
about this, man, and just knowing you for all these years, like
Yeah,
those are the positive Parks traits.
yeah,
But
yeah,
we know that people have negative traits too,
absolutely.
right? So okay, and we're gonna talk about this here in a minute, but I want you to keep going with like just all those guys, right? Like all those studs, all those
Oh yeah,
17 guys went to the D1 level
yeah,
after JUCO.
yeah,
That's a big deal. You're
absolutely.
playing like Florida JUCO
Oh,
guys is no joke. Like Florida
oh
JUCO,
God, it's
you're basically playing Division 1 baseball,
yeah,
but it's just it's a shit show because guys are bouncing all over. They're in for 1 year, they're out the
yeah,
next, and
absolutely.
like I always say, JUCO coaches, they have the toughest job because not only are they trying to recruit, they're also trying to recruit the other way. Like
Yeah,
they
and
want guys
develop.
in and they want guys out. They want guys
Right,
in, they want guys out.
right.
If they do that, they're doing a good job. So like what was it like playing with and against that competition? Like you're playing with those guys on your team, but you're
Yeah,
also competing against those guys
yeah,
in the fall. And then you're
yeah,
having to band together and compete against other JUCOs. Like what
yeah,
was that like compared to high school and travel ball?
yeah. I mean, I vividly remember like being that cocky, like immature kid, and quickly realizing within like the first couple weeks that like I was like there were 7 lefties, and I was probably number 6 or 7.
Damn.
And I mean, we had Ethan Brown, who ended up at USF. We had J.C. Sewell, who ended up at UAB. There was a kid named Garrett Hester who came from Alabama. Like they were all good, and um, like I just remember like walking on campus and seeing them play, and the difference in college and high school kids was like, oh boy, like I kind of panicked.
What
And
is the biggest difference? Like, what do you think the biggest difference is when, like, you're a college freshman, you step on campus, you think you're the shit,
yeah,
but then what? Like, what is the first thing that you remember noticing about the college guys versus the incoming freshmen, the guys that only had played high school up until that point?
well, from a pitcher standpoint, because I always was with the pitchers, and I can go to the hitters after, but from a pitcher standpoint, like the ability to throw like breaking balls for strikes, like the kids who could throw, I mean,
Secondary pitches.
everybody threw 88 plus when I was there, unless they were sidearm, but like the ability to throw a breaking ball for a strike, like if you did that in high school, if you were throwing 90 plus in high school and you could land a breaking ball, like you were going to play Division 1. You were not at a JUCO, and I didn't realize Florida JUCO was as
Good.
intense as it was
Right.
and good. And I was like, oh boy, like I couldn't land a fastball for a strike half the time. And I just remember showing up and like seeing that these guys could like do everything I could do times 2, like land breaking balls, land fastballs in the zone wherever they wanted. And I was like, okay, and I had one specific guy, Ethan Brown, who ended up at USF and was like a 2-year starter there. He like for sure grabbed me under his wing. Like he was like he changed throwing partners so he could throw with me to try and elevate me, because all that was preached to me is I could be better than him. Because I mean, I had a lot of talent, but I was cocky and dumb and got off track a lot. And I think like having him, grab me and say you're going to be my throwing partner and we're going to work, helped push me to be good in the spring. And then spring rolls around and I didn't have a great spring. I didn't pitch much because I was the 6th lefty.
Mm-hmm.
Like what pitching
You didn't get
staff?
chances, or
No,
or you got chances and shit the bed,
I mean
or both.
when you had the guys that we had at the front of the pitching staff, the lefties we had, like it was it was hard to like be a guy. Like you had to be really good. And and then one of the lefties was a freshman who kind of was my competition. Ended up at UNC Charlotte, which is a great program.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, it was top to bottom from the left side. That like, it was tough to compete with, and like,
Right.
I wasn't ready. Like,
Yeah.
I was not ready to pitch in college, and I mean, I think I threw 6 innings.
What did that do to you? Like, I mean, okay, so you threw 6 innings, you're getting done with your first
Mm-hmm.
year. Then what? Like, what does that do to a guy?
My exit meeting was, I was hurt. Like, I came in confident and turned into cocky, and I was like, but still thought I was really good. And turns out I wasn't really good. I wasn't good enough. And hearing that again, because I'd heard it in the past, and I was pulled in the office for our exit meetings, and they said, my pitching coach got in my face and said, when you learn to grow up, you're going to be really good at this game. And I took that and ran with it over the summer and pitched in the Sun Belt my freshman year and had some really, really good outings and some really rough ones. And I think I finished with my last outing was like 6.1 innings in a playoff game with 7 punch outs and no runs. And like going in, that was a huge, for my sophomore year, so much confidence. And I was like, I got it. Like, let's go.
So it's funny because I watched you pitch that summer.
Yeah.
Right. I saw you pitch in the Sun Belt League that summer, and it was. I saw that. I saw the roller coaster. I saw the up and down.
Yeah.
We had already talked because you called me throughout the season, and
right.
I don't remember if this was your freshman year or your sophomore year, but I remember the day you called me and told me that you hit 95.
That was
sophomore year. Okay, so we're gonna get there in a minute, but I remember you telling me that stuff, and when I would answer that phone call, I was like, man, Parks is on cloud 9 right now, and then I would answer some phone calls, and it's like, I'm a little bit worried about Parks. Should I call his dad right now? Like, and I think everybody needs to learn how to handle this because you're talking about you're on the side of the immaturity and the confidence.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a negative, dark place to be in.
Right.
If you're on the confidence and free side, you're feeling good. You're feeling springy.
Yeah.
So, like, what would you say your first year to you was a failure, right? Because you wanted to go down there and pitch. So knowing, like, leaving after the first year and knowing I failed this year. Like, I really didn't do anything great other than I played a season of college baseball. Like, what does that do to your psyche, failing like that? And like you said, you felt like you were right back to high school when everybody was telling you weren't good enough. So what's next, man? Like, how do you handle that?
Well, during the time, it was really hard. I mean, I went through some personal stuff. The first semester of my freshman year, where like I didn't know who I was. I wanted to fit in. I did some dumb stuff off the field that affected me on the field 100%. But now looking back, like I wouldn't trade that freshman year because like I learned not just as a baseball player, but as a person, like I grew a ton. Like that was probably one of my most important years of life just because like I learned how to be a baseball player off the field and also on the field. And like going into my sophomore year, I'm like, I'm not going to mess this up by being an idiot off the field, and I'm going to come to practice every day and I'm going to work. And we've all gone from being the young guy to the older guy, and I knew I was going to have to be a guy. And I think that changed my thought process from freshman to sophomore years. Like freshman year, I'm like, I'm not going to be a guy. Like my season's over. Like I'm not pitching. Like I don't really, I'm not worried. I'm just worried about the team and whatever, and kind of myself and how I'm going to get better. And then sophomore year, I'm like I have to be good for us to be good. And some guys, it's a lot of pressure. For me, that elevated me for sure. Like my sophomore year, that first semester, like I had some injuries, some, hiccups. I think like my first outing where a bunch of scouts were there, I was like 86, 88. Yeah. And because I had a back issue. And I worked through it and came back that second semester of sophomore year and was like 92, 94, touching 95. And at one point I had 15 pro scouts sitting behind home plate and an inner squad. And I'm like it's crazy how much like it can change. And like you can be up here and have 15 pro scouts in the stands and you're throwing gas and your stuff's gross, and then all of a sudden it's like boom, like my back hurts and now I'm 86, 88 and nobody's here and no one cares. And you grow. I mean, you got to learn how to figure it out and push through it. But that sophomore year was, unbelievable. Just from like I've never pitched like that before and had to take on a role that I took on.
So you busted it, and I remember.
Oh yeah.
I remember we were over. That was when we were at Elite Edge.
Yeah.
You busted it in between your freshman
did.
and sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember your weight was up.
Yep.
Right, and you were like, no, I want to be at this weight. I want to be a little heavier.
Yeah.
I feel like I throw harder. And then I think you took that into the fall.
Yeah.
And damn it, you were throwing harder. Like
Yeah.
it was, like you said,
Yeah.
you called me a couple. Hey, I hit 95. Hey, I
Yeah.
hit 95.
Yeah.
And I think you were sitting 92, 93.
Yeah, like I was throwing the crap out.
So okay, so that's great. Like at that point, was it already decided between you and your coaching staff, like what your role was going to be? Were you still figuring that out, or did you basically say this is what I want to do?
I started opening day.
Yeah.
I started opening day, and I got scared. I had Miami, like Mississippi State, like you name a D1, probably there. Pro scouts, like I had pro scouts like watching me warm up, and seeing that, like being a 19-year-old kid, like I don't care what anybody says, like it sends pressure through your body and in your head. And I got out there and we just talked about it with Hendricks, but like there's two sides of it. You either overthrow or you underthrow. And I underthrew. I was 88 to 90 after I'd been 92, 93, like literally the week before, and gave up 2 home runs to Pensacola State in like 2 innings. Gave up 3 runs. And I got hurt like that game and missed a month.
What was the injury?
I got hurt actually the next game and had 6 scouts there.
Was that when you had the weird wrist thing?
Injury, yeah.
Go through that, man. I was just talking about that with the guys
crazy.
back here, like, because I was reminiscing on it. Like, what was that injury?
It was a strain of, like, these, like, ligaments through my hand, and it actually caused me I can't throw a changeup with these 2 fingers anymore because it comes back. But it was from I threw a changeup in the second outing of my sophomore year and strained that, and I missed, like, a month with it, and I had no idea what was going on. It was actually a great pitch.
Yeah.
It was perfectly
And
located, and I was like, I felt it, and I was like, what the heck was that? I was like, let me throw a warm-up pitch. I threw a fastball, and it was, I mean, terrible pain, like, through my fingers, and I missed a month and was trying to figure out what was going on, and I finally was like, well, I'm going to throw a split change, and that's what is going to happen, and that's all I can do. And I actually didn't throw one changeup my whole sophomore year after that.
Wow.
Because I was just fastball slider, and I went from being a starter to you're going to be our cleanup / closer / whatever the heck we need out of the bullpen, and you're going to spot start when we need you. And, I mean, I remember going back and looking at my, like, game logs, and, like, I'd throw 5 games in a row.
How many innings did you throw that year?
I think it was like 40 something, but
that was with the injury.
With missed a month,
yeah.
And like it was out of the pen too, and it was like 1 inning on Monday, 2 on Wednesday, 1.2 on Friday, 1 on Saturday,
heavy
and then
on the back end,
and then like 3 on Monday. And every like 5th game, when I would throw the 3 innings, I'd give up like 3 runs because I was exhausted, and my ERA would get a little boosted. But like, I loved that role.
Yeah.
Like I loved just like walking off the field like I had just ran a marathon by game 4 or 5, but like saving games and like being that like dog. I mean my most vivid memory is with actually who's my roommate now at West Georgia, but he was at Georgia Southern, but we were playing St. John's River and I wasn't even supposed to pitch. I like played catch like 7 hours before the game because I was just getting my throwing in, and went to the game in shorts. And our rule was always bring your uniform in case, I mean, God forbid, like 8 guys get hurt and you got to send Parks out to pinch run, which is a bad idea.
We don't want that. No, we definitely don't want that.
But I bring my uniform. We just had to. And I told him, I said, look, like if it gets bad, like I got my uniform, like, let's go. And I ended up going into that game in the 8th inning in a 3-3 ball game, got us out of a jam. And I told Luke Hatcher, I said, give me some curse words in there, freaking run, and this game's over. And he comes up with a guy on first and hits a 2-run jack in the top of the ninth. And St. John's River was, I mean, us CF, Central Florida, and St. John's River, it was always us three in Santa Fe. And he comes in the dugout. I'm scared to death because he comes in throwing fist bumps and going crazy. And he grabs me by the jersey and goes, "I got you your run. Now go win the ball game." And I'm like, oh, I can't lose this game.
Intense, man. And
I go out there and shut it down, and we win. And like having that like role of being the guy on your team is no better feeling.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
It's awesome, man. That's awesome.
I had a great time my sophomore year.
Sophomore year, I mean, so all right, you get past the injury. You're starting to pitch more. You're pitching a lot more often, frequency.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that helped you in the whole exposure thing, right? Because your whole thing was like, hey, I still want to play D1 baseball.
Absolutely. It helped with exposure. It helped with consistency. Like, I mean, when you're on the mound that much, like, there is no bullpens. There is no
time to think.
But there's no better work than getting on the mound with hitters.
Yeah.
Like, there is, like, that is what a bullpen is you're preparing to go get people out. But when you're actually going out there and getting people out, like, you're prepared for the next one if you're throwing that close together. And I think just from a consistency standpoint, like, I could go out there anytime and throw strikes. And then from an exposure standpoint, like, my coaches, I mean, they, for what I did for that team, they had my back 110%. Like, they would make calls to anybody I wanted them to make calls to and praise the type of player I was and the type of kid I was. And, like, that's what you want. Like, you know.
When did it start popping off? Like, when did schools start coming into the picture, and what schools were those? Like, you know, like, where were you at? I mean, obviously, you know, you said you went to Kennesaw. We've already talked about that, but like, I remember you were coaching with me after that sophomore season. You coached 17U with me, and so we're in the car driving back and forth. We're talking about this stuff, right? And kind of go through like the process. When did it start? Like, I'm sure those schools started coming in as you were still playing, but like, what was the progression like?
It was the last game of my sophomore year. I had a bunch of teams came down to watch. They had shown a little bit of interest, but App State was my first offer. Had an amazing visit there. Like, nothing but amazing things to say about that school and that coaching staff. And then it kind of like picked up from there. Like, as soon as that offer hit, it was like Queens, like Marshall, Long Beach State, like Georgia Southern called, like USF, like all these schools called, Kennesaw, like Liberty. I mean, like, it quickly picked up from there. And I mean, that was very stressful, but very like fun. Like, I got to go on some cool visits and see some cool places that I would never go to. And I mean, it's stressful. Like, your phone's constant. Everybody wants, all those schools want you, and they're, continuously texting, and you're trying to keep up with offers and timelines and whatnot. And then obviously the most stressful part is making the decision. Yeah. Like, where am I gonna hopefully finish?
Was that like
my college career?
Was that like an inner battle with yourself, or like, how much did you talk about it with your family? Like
all the time.
I mean, I know obviously they're involved in the process. You know, obviously paying for your school and all that stuff. But like, was it kind of like I know a lot of parents are like, "Hey, man, like, it's your decision."
Yeah.
But some parents are like, "Hey, like, weigh the pros and cons. Think about this. Think about that." Like, did you go back and forth? Did you think, "Hey, maybe I want to go to this school"? Maybe
100%. I mean, I left a certain school and said, I'm going here. Like, everything about it was unbelievable. Like, I'm going here. But it was the minute I left. And I just, like, remember, like, getting texts from my parents, like, hey, like, you just left. Like, my dad's huge on writing things down. So he made me sit down and write down yes, no, what I liked, this and that, and compare it. And that made it much easier to just nope. And I boiled it down to 3. And it was App State, Liberty, and Kennesaw, and I'd just come from Seminole, which was 7 hours away from home, and I was like, the exposure that Kennesaw can get me. We're gonna play Georgia, we're gonna play Tech, we played Clemson, Boston College. Like, we were playing big time teams. This is gonna be the school to like get me to the professional level, and was a big reason on why I wanted to go there, and I ended up going there.
Okay, cool. So now you've been through 2 college seasons.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
and you came in, big boy, hot shot, felt good about yourself.
Yep.
Failure slapped you in the face that year.
Yep.
Come in your second year, feeling good, obviously made progress, stronger, throwing harder.
Yeah.
Had some failure you had to deal with that season.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're playing Division I baseball. They just came off of a regional year.
Right.
Did you kind of go in feeling the same kind of confidence, like, yeah, I'm going to have a shot to be the guy, or were you approaching it different?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Once I saw how good everybody was, it was the same feeling of getting to junior college minus the cocky aspect. Like, it was you show up and you're just like, God, like, I didn't know it could get much better, and holy crap, it's a lot better. And, I mean, I remember showing up and seeing freshmen throwing 92-mile-an-hour sinkers. Like, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like first strikes. And then just like, oh, here's a slider, like, wherever I want. And I'm like, this is, like, really impressive. And for me, it was like, I had this great year, and now I'm seeing this. Like, I have to step it up again. And I put a lot of pressure on myself. I didn't play free. All fall, I had some rough spots, but like, I think Florida State was tough when I went down there. I mean, threw hard.
Yeah.
91, 92, had good stuff, but didn't throw strikes. Was really wound up. But then flip side, go to Georgia Tech the next week and 1, 2, 3 with 2 punch outs and looked great.
Yeah.
And like, that was the story of my fall. Like, it was ups and downs, and I ended up starting Game 3 of the Fall World Series, which for me was like, oh, these coaches, like, they believe I can be, a weekend guy, if not a midweek starter. And had a great, off season here. Worked out with you, threw some great bullpens. I mean, when I threw live, that one day when we did the live ABs, like, my stuff was, I mean, perfect. Exactly where I wanted it to be. I was really excited about it. And I think there was a point where, like, I had some rough outings in the spring, and I began to lose confidence in myself. Had my first outing against New Orleans. Didn't go well. Came in to close the game on Sunday and just didn't get it. I mean, we won, but didn't get it done. And then from then on, it was just like, good outing, bad outing, good outing, bad outing, good outing, bad outing. And that turned into just like, okay, now you're not going to pitch for a month.
Yeah.
And as a player, like, at the time, you want to blame everything else on everybody. You want to look at coaches. You want to look at injury. You want to look at, whatever it is, you want to blame. And I think, like, that was immature. Instead of just, taking a step back and looking at yourself and being like, look, dude, like, you're not throwing the ball well. That is why you're not playing. Mm-hmm. And, like, could there have been times where I thought I could have thrown more? Absolutely, but every player is going to say that. And I think that, like going in towards the end, I went home at the end of the season, and I was not going back. And I was like, look, like, I'm at my lowest. As crazy as that sounds, like, I went from 8 months ago being at my highest. Like, I'm finally getting to live the dream of going to play Division I baseball at a school close to home, where I had an unbelievable experience from a school standpoint, friends. Like, I loved it. And baseball didn't work out, and that was the reason I was there. And I was like, look, like, we got to find something new. And I'm really happy where I'm at, but I had a heck of a summer, and trying to carry that over.
Yeah. So, you're at Kennesaw in the fall,
Yeah.
and you see everybody's good.
Oh, yeah.
You're playing these inter squads. You're doing your fall season. You go down to played freaking Florida State in one of your fall games. I was at the Georgia Tech fall.
Yeah.
One of those fall
Yeah,
games.
you were there.
So just watching you over the years, you obviously look good. Your stuff looked good. You were throwing hard.
Yeah.
My question, and obviously I wasn't going to say this to you, but my question was, is he in a good place? Like, does he feel good about what he's doing? That was my question. Like, just knowing you, watching you, seeing you do your thing. So I was really curious to see how the spring was going to be.
Yeah.
And, I know that you had conversations with the coaches and you had conversations about, like, what your role was going to be. What was that? Was it like, hey, man, like, you're on the verge of potentially being a midweek guy, you're a bullpen guy? Like, what did that sound like?
I mean, I thought I had a chance to be the Sunday or midweek guy going into the spring. And it just kind of fizzled out over the preseason. Like, before spring, you play a good amount of inter squads, and it was just good outing, bad outing, good outing, bad outing, and I wasn't fit for that role because guys beat me. Like,
when do you think your last shot at that was? I think I know when it was, just on the little bit that I know and just following your guys' season. But when do you feel like it was, hey, I got one last shot at this?
Oh, it was like in the spring?
Yeah.
Like my last shot of pitching?
No, your last shot of hey, you still could be like a Sunday guy or a midweek guy.
My start against Georgia Tech.
Start against Tech.
Yeah. I got the start against Tech, and I freaked myself out like hour and a half before the game. Like, I'm doing things that I've never done before.
Like what?
Like overcompensating, like sitting there, like stretching too much, like doing too much in my diet. Like, instead of going from foul line to, we're at 90 feet of doing scoops. Like, I'm going there and back. So I'm adding on extra. Like, I'm doing all this stuff that I'd never done and got away from my process. And honestly, didn't throw horrible.
Mm-hmm.
There was some good things that came out of that, but it just didn't go my way. I think there were some errors and some, some tough calls that I had, but at the end of the day, throw more strikes.
Yeah.
Or don't throw the ball over the plate to where they can hit it all the time, or don't walk people.
Against a team that at the time they were a juggernaut lineup. At that time in that season, they were crushing. I remember following.
Yeah. And I didn't, and I wasn't at a point where my stuff was great either. Slider was kind of spinny. Fastball was 89, 90. Not anything crazy. And you get out there and it's the big hometown school. I grew up going to watch them play. And you get out there and you almost think of it as an experience more than what you're here to do. And I'm here to win.
Got you out of your process.
Right. And I tried to do too much and buried myself. And I think after that, they tried to give me chances and tried to put me in spots, and it just, I had some good ones. I mean, I went out against Stetson in a 1-1 ball game and did my job. And Boston College went one inning and I had 2 punch outs of 2 draft picks. My stuff was good, but I just don't think. I think when I knew my stuff wasn't good, I totally checked out.
Yeah.
And was well, it's just gonna be a bad day.
Yeah. So, do you think that Tech start was a
demoralizing
thing that it was just too tough to come back from at that point in your career?
It was. Yeah. I mean, I remember my family came to watch. I had family from out of town come to watch, and I went 0.2 innings.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Dude, I've been there.
And you're just you're in the dugout and we ended up losing the game. I think I gave up. I think we lost 4-3.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I gave up 2.
Yeah.
Or at least 1.
Yeah.
And that run I don't give up, or those 2 runs I don't give up. We end up winning that game.
Mm-hmm. That's how you think.
Oh yeah. And I just
when in reality, if you threw 0.2, there's
right.
There's 8.1 other innings that things could happen, but that's how you think, right?
Yeah, and then it becomes from that point on, you get moved to the bullpen, which is fine. I was there in Juco, I was in the bullpen, and you get a couple outings there, and then the outings start to spread out.
Yeah.
And then it becomes like, now I don't know when I'm going to pitch. And like, I think I'm going to pitch this day because there's 8 lefties in the lineup. Nope, don't see the field.
Yeah.
And then you're like, ugh, like, you feel sorry for yourself a little bit. And then it, weeks turn into months, and then you're just like, okay, now I have no idea when I'm going to pitch. Like, do I even like lock in anymore? Do I come to the field ready to go? And then that one day you think, oh, I don't need to lock in today. I ain't pitching.
There
And
you
then
go.
here you go, like,
Pitching.
here we go. We're gonna pitch against Clemson today, like,
Yeah.
And I think that was an immature way to think.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily regret like, like having that mindset, because obviously you grow and you learn,
Mm-hmm.
but like, it moved me out of that school.
Yeah.
And I loved it there, but it was like, you're just, I wasn't producing, and it was time to move.
I've been there, man. Like this, and listen, for you guys still tuning in and listening and watching, if you're a high school or college baseball player, this is where you're going to struggle with this stuff the most, right? When you're younger than high school, the game's not this tough yet. If you get past college baseball, chances are you've probably beat most of these demons.
Mm-hmm.
But high school baseball and college baseball is where you're going to fight this stuff the most. And I remember being a freshman up at Capital, and again, I played at a Division III school.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's all the same stuff. And I remember getting thrust in the lineup early on. I was a shortstop, but because there was a senior playing shortstop, it was like, dude, you got to play. You're going to play center. You're going to play left. You're going to play third. You're going to play second. I played every position other than pitcher, catcher, and first the first year.
Yeah.
But about 10, 15 games in, now I'm playing shortstop. It's like, okay, you're the guy.
Yeah.
And it was almost too much for me. Like, I remember the rest of that season, I think I started like 35 or 37 games out of 40 that year. And I remember like the second half of that season, I was in my own head about stuff. It was like, dude, a shortstop, you catch the ball, you throw it first.
Right.
You make the play. And I remember thinking like just simple stuff like, oh, if it's to my backhand side, I got to get the second hop. And the same thing that you were talking about, where it's like you try to do more than you need to do.
Yeah.
And then when something goes bad, like you almost remember that one time when something goes bad and then you can't get back on track.
Right.
And for me, that didn't happen that freshman year, because I made it through that year. I hit close to 300. I played almost all the time. I was a guy.
Yeah.
And going back the next year, I was the starting shortstop. I knew that. And made it through the fall. We get into the season. And it was like the first game of the season. We're playing at, I think it was Averett in Danville, Virginia. Cold as shit, windy as shit. And I'm playing shortstop, right? And I'm worried about hitting, because everybody's like, oh, you need to be the leadoff hitter this year. You got to do all these things. Again, worried about shit that you shouldn't be worried about. I got to hit anyway, whether I'm hitting leadoff or ninth.
Yeah.
And I remember the first ball hit to me, I wasn't ready. It was like a 6-hopper towards the middle. It was a tough play, but it was a play that I make 99 out of 100 times.
Yeah.
And it just like kind of skirted under my glove. Probably wasn't even called an error. It was probably far enough out of reach to where they're like, oh, that's a tough play. It's a hit. Yeah. And I remember my pitcher's just like,
what the heck?
Fuck, Dave. Like, you didn't. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I got you.
Yeah.
And dude, that was in my head.
Oh yeah.
It was in my head because I'm like, I should have made that play. So
Absolutely.
Then, and I made 3 or 4 other plays that game, and it was like, it didn't feel smooth. It didn't feel good. I didn't feel like I was in control.
Yeah.
And dude, that play, the first ball that was hit to me that season, screwed me.
Yeah.
Because 15 games in, I had 15 errors. And then I got my spot taken away by an outfielder. A guy who was an outfielder. A guy that I got up to the school. I played against him in high school.
Yeah.
I'm the one who got him up to go up there.
Yeah.
Now he's playing shortstop. It was the first conference game they put him in. And I had no idea it was going to happen. And I'm just like, same thing you said, man. Feeling sorry for myself. Now what?
Yeah.
I don't know how to sit the bench. Because for the past year and a half in college, I had played almost every. I didn't know how to sit the bench. So I'm like, my coach, man, I need to get him on this podcast too. He tells the story awesome. He's like, yeah, Dave, you were like pacing the dugout. And you would like come stand next to me and just sit there. And he's like, you didn't say nothing. You weren't like out of line. He said you could just tell that you didn't know what to do. You didn't know how to handle it. And I think it was probably another probably another 5 or 6 games before I got put back in the lineup
Mhm.
or in the game, maybe a midweek game or something. Made first ball hit to me, made an error. Had 2 hits that game, but first ball hit. So it's like, dude, you can do other good things,
Yeah.
but if you're not ready, you're not ready.
Right.
And sat the bench again. I mean, I went through that process for probably the next 10 games of getting a chance every
Yeah.
third or fourth game and something like that happening. And I would blame it on, oh, well, that ball took a weird hop, or oh, somebody made a bad throw.
Yeah.
But it's like, dude, no, just catch the ball, throw it to first.
Yeah.
And I remember I got put back in the lineup because we had some injuries. I got put back in the lineup against Ohio Northern, and I was playing left field, and I was batting ninth. And I was like, fuck yeah, here we go. Don't have to play short. Don't have to play second. I'm good. And I needed that mental reset.
Yeah.
To just go do my thing. I think I went 2 for 3. I drove in a run. I made 2 plays in the outfield.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm back. And after the game, my coach is like, hey, man, you call your dad after the game today. I was like, why don't I call my dad? He's like, well, just tell him you didn't suck today. And I laughed. I kind of half smiled. He's like, you can smile. It's okay, man. It's good.
Yeah.
And I was in the lineup the next day. I was playing third the next day. So I didn't play short or second, I don't think, the rest of that season. It was like my coach was smart enough, he understood enough to know he can't do that. It's too much on his brain to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, I left that school the next year and I transferred, and I never played another game at shortstop the rest of my career. I probably could have if I would have been able to get past that. But just like you said, there's that one time, dude. All it takes is one time, not being ready. So for me, my question to you is, you seem to have gotten past that.
100%.
How? What did you do, man? What was your, I know you were pissed at the end of the season. We came back this summer. We sat in the office and we talked. Guys, me and Parks, this is how we've been talking for the past 5 years. This is how we discuss things. So that's a testament to, him improving his maturity over the years. But you see how much it takes. What have you had to do to get past this past hurdle?
I think this summer was huge, just from a standpoint of get what happened out of your mind. Find confidence. In this summer is all about that. Guys were like, well, we'll get you in the Valley League, or we'll get you up in the Northwoods, or whatever. And I'm like, I need to stay home, come here to Athletek, get in the weight room, throw bullpens where I'm comfortable, and use that comfort of where I'm at to find it again. And I was Turner would catch my bullpens this summer, and I remember the first ones I'm screaming and yelling, and you're coming in what's going on in here, because it was so bad. I didn't know what I was doing. I was so low. And I just remember the first summer ball game, I get out there and I'm can't get much worse than what I've already gone through the past 9 months, so let's just roll. And of course, I'm sitting there and I walk the freaking leadoff guy, and I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. This is, I look up in the stands, I'm looking at the catcher, my dad's kind of in the bleachers behind, but towards the right side. And I look and he's got this and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And they were on spiked fastballs.
Yeah.
I end up punching out 9 and 2 1/3.
Mm-hmm.
If that even adds up. Does that add up?
No. 2 and 2
and
it'd have to be 3.
2/3.
Well, technically 3. It could if
or
you
maybe
were,
it was 8 and 2 2/3. It was something. I struck out every guy I got out.
Well, I was gonna say, if you're throwing them nasty bouncers like you're talking about,
I guess so. Pass ball or drop third strikes.
Drop third strikes.
No. Yeah, I'm not good at math. I failed it 3 times.
It's okay.
Study hard.
Do your math.
Study hard. But I struck out everybody I got out, and I think for me it was God, I love that feeling, whoa, walking off the mound, just dominant, head held high, shoulders back, chest out, you know what I mean, and I wasn't facing the big leaguers, but I didn't care, I could have. All right, well, I'm being a little over the top here, but if I was facing a little league team, I probably would have done the same thing at that point. I was so low.
Yeah.
Like I just needed something to just like, okay, I can still get people out.
You were your own worst enemy.
Right. So I get out of that and I throw that game and I'm like, hey, can I get a start? Like I want to, try and get into that role again. And I end up starting and I don't remember who it was against, but like 4 innings. Oh, it was against Columbus at Georgia State. 4 innings, no runs, couple hits in there, not a ton of strikeouts. And I remember I was sick that day, and I still pushed through and pitched really well. Went on, pitched against Gainesville or Alpharetta or something Gainesville the next week, which was the team that ended up winning the Sun Belt. Studs in that order, like up and down, and had a no hitter into the fifth, and like no runs again, 5 innings, like 8 punch outs, and then like I think fast forward, like I ended up finishing with like I threw in the All-Star game too, so that adds another 2. But I had like 27 innings with like a .6 ERA. Like I gave 2 runs in 27 innings. Like, I mean, pitched the best I've ever pitched in my life. Like I'm throwing like 2-0 breaking balls back to back to get back in the count, and then blowing guys' doors off with a fastball, or like doing 3-1 slider, boom, punch out. Like I was just like at a different level than I've ever been, and like I looked at it as if like, look, man, like what I'm doing right now has nothing to do with who I'm facing. Like if I'm facing Division I guys or if I'm facing a Division III guy, like the fact that I'm able to land my stuff in these counts and pitch with this kind of conviction and getting ahead and whatnot, like with this confidence, like I can pitch at any level. And I just needed to like get that again, find that again. And I mean, like I couldn't have been happier with how my summer went.
Do you feel like that's part of your MO now, is like just what you just told me? Like it doesn't matter who you're facing.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't, because like I know that like my stuff, like I've always had good stuff. Like I've always been told I have good stuff, and like it's about locating it. And if you can't locate it, then it doesn't matter. And like the fact that like I feel like I can locate and throw stuff in any count, like all I've done like from the moment like I left Kennesaw is just build and like build and build and build and build and build and build. And like I'm at I took a month off and didn't throw, and started throwing again like a month and a half ago, and we had our first inter squad yesterday, and I was like, or at West Georgia we had our first inter squad, and I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna go. Like I haven't seen a hitter, and and is this so-called high of like confidence gonna be gone since I haven't seen a hitter in a month and a half since summer ball, and hadn't skipped a beat. Yeah. Same exact results, same thing, and it's like, you know what? Like I think I've finally found the mindset that works for me, and it's just like roll out there, like be free, have fun, like don't assume what's gonna happen. Like don't sit on the bench and be like, I'm gonna strike out 15 today because I'm gonna strike out 15 and 3 since I can't do math, and we're gonna and I'm gonna throw a no hitter and all or whatever. Like just go out there with a blank mind and just make the adjustments when it's needed, and just go through that process. And I've seen unbelievable like results and improvement just from just rolling out there and from pitch one, like. Ball one, up and arm side. Okay, well, I probably flew open, so let's stay closed and stay on the backside a little longer and stay through this. Boom, like land the next fastball. Okay, like now I feel it. Like there's no like, it's just adjustment after adjustment, and not having to like worry about, know your cues and just go.
Yeah.
And I love the way I feel on the mound just from a standpoint of confidence, and there's no panic. 3-1 count. Okay,
free.
Like, I can throw 2 more and you're out. Like, no big deal. Yeah. And if I walk you, like, sweet. Like now I got a guy on first, but now I have an 0-0 count for the next guy.
Yeah.
Like it's positive. It's free. It's confident. Like that's all. That's the positive, best feeling on the mound as a pitcher.
Does positive fall somewhere like on that meter of immature, confident, free? Is positive somewhere in the middle?
Absolutely.
Up here?
But I think it comes from both.
Yeah.
Like I think it is a result of confidence
Yeah.
as well as being free.
It's like the perfect amount of. I mean, if you're too
Yeah.
free, that's not good either.
Right.
If you're too confident, that's not good either. So
It's. I mean, if I like could tell a pitcher like what you want to feel on the mound, it is like what I have right now, of just like I don't think anything's gonna go wrong. Like I think everything is just gonna. I think like I'm so confident in myself and like that I can go out there and like if something happens, like we'll figure it out
yeah,
and we'll just on to the next. And it sucks that it's taken this long to realize, but at least we got there. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So and I've got this year, and if I don't know if I'm gonna get the fifth year with all the you know eligibility with moving to like if we stayed it as a Division II, I would 100% have that fifth year. But I've heard I'll be grandfathered in, so I guess I'm being called a grandfather now that
So
I'm going to be a fifth year.
West Georgia is Division II, right?
Correct.
Like, is there talk of that changing?
They are moving to the ASUN.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure happening.
Yeah, just they had the big ceremony like a couple
So
days ago.
that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So you may, I mean, you could potentially end up pitching back at the D1 level anyway.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Like, I mean, you've played Juco, D1, D2. Like, what's the biggest difference between all of it?
I mean, I'll just go from D1 to D2, and then I'll go back to Juco to D1. But like, I mean, I've told guys that I've been sitting behind home plate after my outing and been watching guys, or like after I throw a pin, I like to watch and see like what my teammates are like and how they throw and all that stuff, and maybe learn. And like, it's depth. I mean, that's it. But there's some. I mean, at West Georgia, I was sitting there watching some inter squad, and I'm like, some of these guys, like, there's a handful of freshmen like at the plate and on the mound that like could easily be at a Division I school, like no question. And then, I mean, like I sit there and I'm like, God, these kids are like pretty damn good, and like they have good stuff. And even some of the JUCO transfers, like same thing. And there's a lot of us that have actually come from Division I, so we've seen it.
Yeah.
But like we'll talk, like actually all my roommates are D1 transfers, so we've all like sat around and been like these guys could easily have pitched at our school or have hit at our school or caught or whatever you want to, and but at the end of the day, it's depth.
Yeah,
like
makes sense.
Top to bottom, like like our weekend guys at West Georgia are going to be good and are going to be able to compete at the Division I level all day long. But like, is our 13th pitcher going to be as good as Kennesaw's 13th pitcher?
Right.
Probably not.
Right.
But from a JUCO standpoint, biggest difference is, I mean,
I guess that goes for any level, right?
It's
like
weird.
You take the best high school programs in the country, versus some of the programs in the country that are pretty good.
Yeah.
The difference is depth, right? Like,
right.
You might have a stud. You might have a guy 97, 98 on the bump who's your Friday guy
but
in high school.
One of those.
But if there's one of those, you're going to be just an okay
And you
team.
go into a playoff series and you win game one because you have him,
right.
But then you have
your next guy's 81, your next guy's 76, and now
like
now all of a sudden you're 1 and 2. So,
right.
And I think that goes D3, D2, D1, JUCO. I mean, obviously JUCO is D1, D2, D3 as well. Like, I think that's kind of the answer for everything.
And
right?
I think with the whole transfer portal thing, like there's good players everywhere now because like guys want to play, and like they you might have a freshman who rolls into Mississippi State and he's 89, 92, and they're like, you're just not ready. Like, we're gonna cut you, and you can go to JUCO or you can go to a Division II or whatever. And then in 2 years, whether he's at a JUCO for a year or two, and then or he's at West Georgia for 2 years, you look down the line and he's at that point 93, 96, and you're like, well, like that kid, like if Mississippi State would have just said, let's give him 3 years to develop, he would have been that guy there, most likely. But because he transferred because he wanted to play, now he's at a Division II as a D1, if not professional arm.
How does that affect guys like, and this goes for you too, like what do you want? I know if I asked you this question last year, you might have answered this different than this year. I don't know, maybe you'll answer it the same. But what do you want? Like, what's next? Like, do you want to play professionally? Do you want to just figure out how to be the best college player you can be until that's done? Like, where are you at right now?
I'm like I'm at a point where like I'm worried about today, and I'm worried about tomorrow, and like if being a professional works out, like heck yeah, like let's do it. Like I would be like 100% in on that and would want to do it all day long. But like for me, like my mindset can't be I want to be a professional anymore, because all I do is put too much pressure on myself and lose the fun in the game. And like now, I mean, I'm just, hey, like I'm supposed to lift today, cool, do my lift, do my homework and have fun.
Yeah.
Saturday, I'm supposed to throw today. Okay, cool. Like I'm gonna get my throwing done, and then I'm gonna do whatever that, like, get your baseball stuff done. Like when it's baseball time, it's baseball time. Get it done, and then enjoy like yourself, because like what are you gonna do sitting in your room just overthinking about baseball? Like I've done it, and it just buries you. Um, so for me, like I just want to, I want to play the game. I want to have fun. I want to compete. And like for me to do that, like I just need to worry about today. And I need to work one at a time, worry about the process. And like I think if I do that, I put myself in a good position. But like the idea of like thinking about baseball 24/7 has never been the best for what
do you feel like because you've gone through the failures you've gone through the struggles, and you've had to work past that stuff, do you feel like now that you have that mindset about, hey, if it happens, it happens, that you'll be more prepared if you get the chance for pro ball than if everything just went your way the whole time?
100%.
Because you're gonna fail.
Absolutely.
You're gonna fail.
Everyone says it. It's a game of failure.
Right.
I mean, like, if I, you know what I mean? Like, if I worry about what I'm going to do today and stack good days onto good days onto good days onto good days, like, first of all, you're confident. And a confident any athlete is at an advantage at all times, no matter if they're the biggest, the strongest, the fastest. Like if you believe in yourself, like you got a good shot. And like I think that if I continue to do that over the fall and take that approach, and then show up game one and know that I took all fall to build myself up, and not just as an athlete and getting stronger and all and faster, like that's important too, but as mentally, like building myself up, and then taking the mound game one and being like, here we go, like let's be free, you know what I mean? Like let's just go out here and compete and go win a championship. And I think things will fall into place, and if it's meant to happen, it'll happen. But like I'm I'm so content with everything I've gone through from a baseball standpoint, and I've grown a ton, like just as a person and as a player. And I think like I want to, at some point get into whether after I'm playing, whether that's professionally or college, like I want to give back some of that knowledge that I've learned, because I think that what I've learned are a lot of things that kids, would benefit from, because it's important.
Okay, good. So, like, with that being said, what's one piece of advice that you would give a 15 or a 16 or a 17-year-old miniature Parks? Like, tell these guys what would you tell them? Like, what is the one piece that you could give them to to properly prepare them to go through everything you've gone through in the past 3 to 4 years?
Just like, honestly, just let it happen. Like, let it happen. You know what I mean? Like, if you like stress yourself out and you don't believe in yourself and believe in the process, like it's not going to get you anywhere. Like show up to the field and like enjoy it and want to be there and do your best at everything you do, and that's all you can do. Like, there's so many uncontrollables when it comes to baseball. Like, you just never know. And I think that I tended to fall into the trap of, like, I wanted everything to be perfect, and when it wasn't perfect or I didn't do what I wanted to do, I beat myself up. And that definitely set me back. Oh boy, Handy.
Hendo.
Boy, Handy.
We got producers.
Do we need to
allergic in the background.
Do we need to redo that?
No. We got.
Cool. We can get a blooper now.
We can never. You can never.
We got step out now.
Producer malfunction.
But I would, like, honestly, like, play free, I guess. I mean, I'm 21 years old now, and it's taken me that long to learn it. But, like, growing up, there's so much pressure. And you think there's so much pressure, and it only gets worse. I mean, it's how it is. It's part of the game. I mean, you don't think Mookie Betts steps up there in front of 40,000 and, isn't under pressure in a bottom of the ninth game and against the Braves and the NL whatever, DS or CS? Like, heck yeah, he is. But, like, if you learn to, like, just believe in you and know that you worked your hardest to get to that point, like, and know you're prepared, like, you can be happy with the result, whether it's good or bad. Like, it's just part of the game.
Typically, you're going to rise up.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Like, you're going to rise.
If you know you're ready, like, you take that energy of being anxious or nervous, and it just fuels you. Like, it makes you better. And I mean, I've felt it. Like, I've had many times where I've gone on the mound in front of people, important people, and crapped down my leg. And there's been other times where I've gotten in front of important people, and I've risen to the occasion, and there's a whole different feeling. Like, it's interesting.
I'm proud of you, man. I know how up and down some of this has been for you, and I'm proud to hear you say some of the things like, the chips are going to fall where they're going to fall. Like, I'm proud to hear you say that, hey, at the end of the day, I got to pitch better. Like, hearing things like that makes me understand that, you get it.
Yeah.
Like, you're never going to be perfect. You're going to fail. You're going to mess up. But at the end of the day, man, you want to grow. Like, you want to grow. You want to get better. You want to accept your failures and figure out how to move past. And, like, I think what you said as your advice to everyone out there about just, like, trust the process, but not only trust it, have fun in the process.
Yeah.
Like, you have to trust your process 100%. And enjoy your process.
100%.
If you trust it but you hate it, it's not going to be that good. If you don't trust it but you love it, but you still don't trust it, it ain't going to be good. Like, it has to be a trust and a love.
And that's what, like, at 15, I was that. I loved it, but I didn't believe in it. Like, I didn't believe I could do it.
Right.
And, I mean, that happens.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think that, like, when you talk about just the confidence and the freedom, the confidence is the trust, the freedom is the love. Like, that's how you tie all that stuff together, man. Yeah. So, dude, I'm super proud of you, man. Like, I know you've got really good things coming still.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for this year at West Georgia because I know you feel like you're in a good spot.
Absolutely. It's been great.
And we're going to get after it here. I know you'll be home for the off season, so we'll keep cranking and you come see us anytime, man.
That's right. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So y'all be sure to go check out Brendan on his Instagram. His Instagram is, what is it?
Brendan.parks_. Go check me out.
Brendan.parks.
Damn, bro. Hey, we got to redo that.
No,
bro. Hell no.
Is it good?
You can't. No, I'm not that piece. Come on, bro. Redo it.
Is it